When I rank players, when I look at players, this is how I rank players. Not ranking the offense, not ranking the defense. That's a whole different scale. But when I rank players as to how good I believe they are, this is the criteria by which I measure looking at things and them on the court, not just offense and defense, because all of these things can lead to whether you are actually a very good offensive player or defensive player. So I'm gonna start with Mike Jordan. I'm gonna show you something. When I look at Mike Jordan in terms of power, Mike Jordan was not a power player. He had power when he drove to the hole, and but Mike, that wasn't Mike's part of Mike's game. Mike's game wasn't about power. He didn't dominate you with power. So Mike wasn't one of the most dominating people in the league in terms of power. There's a lot of people who beat him in terms of power. Like Shaq beat him in terms of power. David Robinson beat him in terms of power. Wilt Chamberlain beats him in terms. There's a lot of big men especially. So if I was ranking Mike on a power scale, I would say Mike in power wise is about a 7. Maybe, yeah, I would say about a 7 tops. 6.8, about a 7, maybe between 6.8 and 7.2. Mike was not a powerhouse. That was not really his thing. In terms of tenacity, Mike redefined tenacity. Like he set the bar. On a 1 to 10 scale, Mike's a 10, 10.0 in terms of tenacity. There's very few people who ever had the terms of tenacity that Mike's has. So I would say in terms of power, like I said, he's a late 6, early 7er. So I would give him about a 7, maybe a tops on power. I would definitely give him a 10 on tenacity. On athleticism, Mike was an extremely gifted athlete. So you can see that by how he moved in the air, how he contort himself, how he could jump, reverse the ball, do all of those things. That's a term. That's also a body IQ. Athleticism is a physical intelligence. Just so you know that athleticism means physical intelligence, and Mike had a very high physical intelligence. So when we talk about that athleticism, Mike was definitely about a 9.8 in terms of athleticism. He was definitely one of the most athletic NBA players that you'll ever see in your life. Basketball IQ, Mike had extremely high basketball IQ, extremely high. This was what made him. When you add his athleticism and tenacity with a high level of basketball IQ, it you already get a player that automatically have longevity in the league. Mike's basketball IQ was definitely about a 9.8. It rivaled his athleticism or his body intellect. So, in terms of fundamentals, Mike wasn't the single most fundamentally sound player you'll ever see, but he was extremely good at fundamentals. He didn't master them like a lot of other players, like a lot of European players and whatnot. But in terms of fundamentals, I would say Mike was a solid 7.5, 8. So yes, Mike, in terms of this scale, his lowest points would probably be somewhere between power and fundamentals, and even those were higher than average. But in terms of tenacity, athleticism, and basketball IQ, all of those he had. All of those were peak, almost pristine levels that most players that are unrivaled amongst most players. This was what Mike made Mike so dangerous between his tenacity, athleticism, and his basketball IQ, coupled with a very high level of fundamentals and a moderate but above average level of power. This what made him so dominant when you add all of these factors together.